hello, everyone. Welcome and greetings to one more cup of coffee, Coffee and Culture's Genshin Impact Lore Podcast. I'll be your host for today, JSide from the Genshin Guys podcast, but you can also call me Josh. So today we'll be doing a special version of One More Cup of Coffee where we will be discussing Honkai Star Rail. We've got a lot of fun stuff in store for today. So I hope you're all ready to talk about Honkai Star Rail. So today here with me is my co-host Gina. Gina, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Cool. Yeah, how is it? Let's see, how's it going? Like, are you enjoying Honkai Star Rail?
I'm enjoying learning a lot more about the lore. I've been looking into the different paths aside from the playable ones, and boy, are there some weird ones.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of cool, weird stuff in this lore. We'll talk about it. The trash cans. You know what I'm saying already.
I
We
get you. I get you.
we have so much fun stuff in this game to talk about. And joining us today is our fellow content creator, Teyvat Historia, our special guest for today. Teyvat, how's it going?
Great. How's it going, everyone?
Yeah. Is it cool if I call you TH or do you want to call you Teyvat? What do you prefer?
TH is fine. That's what
All right.
I have grown accustomed to this.
Okay, all right, TH. We're gonna get started talking about Honkai Star Rail stuff. But first, before we start, everyone, I just want to mention that the managers of One More Cup of Coffee would like to thank Alez, Squish, and Mamonzart on Discord and Reyes on Instagram for making the chibis and the podcast stage our wonderful setup here. And yeah, you can find them. We'll probably put their links in the chat a little bit later. But this whole new setup just for this Honkai version of the podcast, which we may do more of in the future. We'll see, but is a very very nice setup, and we want to thank them for that. So before we dive into Honkai Star Rail topics today, just for those that maybe don't know you, Th, let's talk a little bit about you. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? Where are you based? What do you like doing? What kind of content you like making, and what kind of games do you play?
Well, I am obviously Teyvat Historia, and 3 years ago I started a YouTube channel of the same name, mostly dedicated to Genshin Impact content. And I discovered Genshin Impact, I guess, maybe a year or two before the game actually released. They had the official manga that they were working on,
Mm,
and there was just something about that manga that it hooked me, it grabbed me, and I had to just absorb every ounce of it that I could, and then
nice.
I needed to uh, spend every ounce of effort that I could trying to get into one of the betas, which I did eventually, manage to work my way into that so that I could continue to learn more about the game prior to its release, and I kind of
Ooh.
hit the ground running with the lore from there. But um yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey for the past 3 years working on lore and theory for Genshin Impact. Sadly, I started the channel in, out of Virginia 3 years ago, but a few months ago now, back in February, the career field that I had been in and contractually locked into for the 6 years prior to that ended. And so I moved back to Georgia, specifically Atlanta, kind of closer to where I was originally based from. And so it's kind of upended a lot of things for me. And it's resulted in me not being able to make as much content as I would like. And I've been trying to set up all of this new stuff to get that going again. And I've been dealing with like crazy amounts of technical difficulties and all
Mhm.
sorts of
Oh,
other weird things. And it's
computers,
oh,
right?
oh my god, like for real though. I don't know. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it, and I'm gonna get back to making content soon. I've got some ideas for some Star Rail stuff. I've got a big Genshin
Ooh.
theory that I've been sitting on for a while. So
Ooh.
I've got some things that I've been needing to get into, and I just haven't had the time to dig into it yet.
Okay, well, cool. I mean, we're looking forward to, of course, your more of your content. If we could get a shout out to Teva Historia's YouTube channel in the link in the chat, that would be really cool too. Definitely a lot of I personally like when I started finally deciding to dig into the lore of Genshin Impact. Your videos were actually one of the first videos I saw. So like I
Awesome.
really enjoyed your delivery style, like how easy you made it to follow what you were explaining. So I personally have like an appreciative. I personally appreciate you for your content because
Well,
it helped
thank you.
me to dive into the lore a little bit more. So
Well, that's
Yeah.
mission accomplished, I think. Then
Oh, 100%. Yeah, thank you so much. Gina, what about you? Have you ever seen like any of Teyvat Historia's videos?
I think back in early game, like in the 1.0's uh, era of Genshin, I was looking to get more into lore and didn't really know where to start, and I stumbled across TH.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like using those secret beta powers,
Mm,
being
well,
able to
so
sugar, spice, and everything nice.
I only got into beta about 6 weeks before the game came out, so like
Mm.
it was close. It
I
was
mean, you were
close.
fully
Everything I
prepared
had
for
before that
1.0.
was, yeah. I mean, by that time I was fully prepared. Everything building up to that was just manga stuff and anything that I
Hmm.
could find that was discussing, other beta information.
So, can I ask you, have you played Honkai Impact Third at all?
I have, although I can't say that I've gotten really deep into it. I don't know,
Hmm.
like
It is a deep
chapters
game.
6 or
It's very
7
deep.
maybe. I think there's a
Hmm.
lot more than that. So,
Oh yeah, yeah. There's like
yeah.
30 plus, and there's a bunch of side stuff, and yeah, because like one of the reasons is I'm maybe you're aware, but like for example, Welt from Honkai Star Rail is actually like canonically from Honkai Impact Third's universe.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
and that's something you wouldn't know because actually there was a manga. Hoyoverse and their mangas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of important story stuff. I think it was a web comic actually, and so yeah, they connect the two that way. But as far as Honkai Star Rail is concerned, you do not need to necessarily know that to play the game and enjoy Honkai Star Rail. But we're definitely there's definitely a lot of like connections and things, and maybe we'll bring it up. But I myself also am not like super deep. I just try to keep up with some of it, especially as it pertains to Honkai Star Rail. So yeah, we may talk about that now.
Yeah, we should definitely come back to that.
Oh yeah, for sure, for
We're
sure.
gonna need to talk about that. That
You're like,
gave me
now I want to
thoughts.
know. Now I want to know.
Oh yeah, I've like my mind is already racing with thoughts just based on knowing that Welt is
Is
a
literally
transfer.
himself. Yep,
Yeah.
he's literally he's
It's not
as
like
far
it's
as
not
we
like
know, he is the
Himiko,
only
who's a
character.
little bit different, or Bronya, or others, like Sele. Like they're all a little bit different, but I didn't realize that he was the
Yes.
same. Okay,
Welt is
noted.
Welt. Yes. And so we'll definitely get into that then, and I'm sure Gina has something things to say about that, right, Gina?
I sure do.
Okay, so let's just set the premise here. So for those of you listening, just know that we are going to be mainly keeping the discussion today within the 1.0 story content as much as possible. Now, there's like a lot of things we might go in and out of mentioning that has come out from 1.1 events, for example, and we will talk about the 1.2 live stream toward the end. But for now, we're going to stick to, since this is the first Honkai Star Rail podcast that we're doing, we're going to talk a little bit about our impressions of the game, our first impressions of the story, of the characters. We're just going to talk about the game and gush about it a little bit. So if that's okay with you guys, we're going to get started with that very soon. So thanks for sharing, TH. And let's dive into our first topic then. So let's talk about first impressions. Now, since you're the guest, TH, I would love to hear your, first impressions of Honkai Star Rail. I know I watched some of your, actually watched your first two live streams where you were like going through the story at first
Hmm.
and like figuring it out. What are some things that really stick out to you that you want to share with everyone that like sticks out to you as like this is like very Honkai Star Rail? Like this is cool. I want to know more about this.
Well, obviously, the first thing that sticks out to me is like the intrigue of the MC character, right? Just like in Genshin Impact, there's something different about them than everybody else there. Obviously, with Genshin, it's they're a traveler from another world, and you don't know what that world is. But in Star Rail, Kafka and Silverwolf basically made you, and and so like it starts your journey with an air of mysticism that you don't even really rightly understand whether or not your character knows what's going on or what their prior existence was or if they even really had one. It's there's a richness to that and a mystery to that I'm waiting for them to explore.
Mm.
What I am afraid of is that they're going to string it along really hard like they have with the Traveler's Journey in Genshin Impact.
Uh,
Like so, like Genshin they've really been just giving us tiny threads to pull on for the traveler's journey, tiny threads here and there, like
Right.
really the last big thing we got for the traveler's journey was in 1.4. It's
Yeah,
been
just
that
Dane slot
long.
stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when Lumine showed up, or the siblings showed up and told you that they would meet again at the journey's end, like that's the kind of stuff that we've had, with Genshin. They've just been giving us these tiny little threads to pull on since then, but
Mhm.
nothing really concrete, nothing you can really bite into. And so with Star Rail, we got, at towards the end of the Herta space station, you get this moment where you kind of you were gonna explode. And like
Yep. And guess who comes
and
in and saves you?
yeah, well,
Well.
it comes and just smacks you in the head, knocks you out, and saves everybody. And so you understand that there's something profoundly different about your character, and you know that there's
Mm.
something big coming for the journey. Like, and there's a lot of talk about fate throughout the game, and even you have Kafka, who's kind of subtly nudging you towards some kind of goal, and you don't know what that goal
Mhm.
is, um, which is really interesting. Um, but it does kind of lead me to and maybe we should wait to talk about it. But it kind of leads me into some of the things that I'm less enthusiastic about right at this time. But I think it's
Mm.
something that can be solved. So we'll see. But yeah, my first big thing that sticks out is the mysticism of the MC. That's, I think, the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like kind of like we kind of joined the traveler after things have happened, but your character in Honkai Star Rail kind of just wakes up and is
Yeah,
just like, now I'm here, and but at the same time, do you remember me? And then we were fated to meet and all this stuff, and so now we're like, okay, what the heck is going on? Like and knowing that the story involves space and space travel and anomalies and things like that, it's like the story could really go anywhere, like they could really do anything with it, almost more freedom than they do, like to fit things into the world, like than they would with Genshin, for example, where they have like sort of a premise set. But like when kind of like Star Trek in general. I don't know how into Star Trek you are, but like,
massive Star Trek fan,
okay, great, okay,
lifetime.
so like the whole boldly going where no one's gone before thing, like
Yeah,
every episode is a different planet with a different premise. It's like there's infinite possibilities, and that concept applies to this game too. So
yeah.
I'm really excited for that as well. You know. So what about you, Gina? What are your first impressions having played Honkai Star Rail, and just kind of been going at it for like the past 2 months or so? What do you think?
To be honest, at first I found it kind of underwhelming. I thought it would be a little bit more like Genshin, more open world, more things to do, even
Oh.
if you're out of things to do, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, it was a little bit more like Honkai Impact the Third, where you're done with the things you're done with, and you could uh, do the equivalent of Abyss or something, or grind for
Right.
artifacts or something. But it felt kind of lackluster without being able to do all the things I got used to, the things that drew me into Genshin.
Mm-hmm.
But then I gave it another go, mostly because everybody I know who plays Genshin got really into Honkai. Uh,
Ah, I see. I
and
see.
I really uh, enjoyed exploring this world and its mythology and how it ties in with other parts of the Hoyoverse.
Hmm.
I like how I can read uh, Don Shu's diary and kind of be horrified by it.
Oh my
And
God, the diary.
I like looking at all the different paths, including the ones that are not currently playable, and thinking like,
Yeah.
wow, I know some people who would absolutely be masked fools or history fictionologists or what have you.
Oh yeah, there's so much tie into philosophy and um like just general just so many concepts, like even really abstract concepts that kind of like apply to this game. And then like I like how you mentioned Danshu's diary, because so th like there's this like NP, there is you I think maybe you haven't hit the point yet, but once you've completed like the main content that's available, because like once we hit people who are playing the game religiously at the beginning of its release, kind of hit a wall where there's nothing left to do. And unlike Genshin, there's no exploration. I mean, there
Mhm.
is, but it's very very easy to do, and you can do it very quickly. So after that, it's like, what do? You just farm materials, you level up your thing, you do the equivalent of Spiral Abyss, and you keep going. And there's auto battle, so that even seems more underwhelming because you just get on, you auto battle for 20 minutes, and then you're done. So that was like definitely. I totally understand what you're saying, Gina. Like that was oh man, now what do I do? How do I enjoy this game still?
Yeah,
But the thing
exactly.
is, like, what's really cool about Honkai Star Rail, and this is kind of we're going leading into my first impressions now, is that every NPC story is really fleshed out. Like, it is really cool that I care about so many NPCs. I love that there was like a joke kind of early about like NPCs are getting more character development than like the actual playable characters because there are I mentioned this before. There are like time gated, like day gated quests where you come back every day for your dailies. They have them in Genshin as well, where you like do the daily, the next day you come back to do the next part of the daily. But those are way more present, and they continue the stories of these like maybe people who have passed away. There's stories of people who are going through something that you can't tell they're going through something unless you read their diary, like or things like that. And there is so much like rich character development things and also like lore building, especially when it comes to philosophies regarding the aeons and the paths, like all this stuff. um it really stuck out to me that this game is, I mean, it's closer to Honkai Impact Third in that it has so much text. Like there's a lot of reading to be done, and it's really cool to see them like really care about this stuff and put it in the game in a lot of places. And then the game is just really silly. So the writing in this game has really got me like that hooked me into it more than I initially thought. I love the graphics, I love the gameplay, but the writing in this game is so robust. I really like it. So yeah, it makes the world feel more alive. I agree. So yeah. Yeah, and as we continue to progress, as more things get added, I mean, if you think about it, Genshin started out pretty bare too. Like, yes, there was exploration, that was a thing, and you could do it. Have I even completed 100% the Liyue map? No, I have not. But I
Tisk.
what but I'm working on it, okay? Before Fontaine, my goal is to literally get 100% on the map, do all the quests. That's my goal. So but the thing is, there's a lot of there's a point where like you're done with everything. But Genshin nowadays like has TCG, it has fishing, it has teapot, it has like all this stuff that you can do outside of the main game, and hopefully eventually Honkai will get those things too to keep you engaged when you run out of story content, for example. And the only thing you maybe you don't want to do, the only thing left, which is make your unit stronger and fight the hardest content in the game. So first impressions down. So we'll see how those change over time. I would love to talk to you guys again in the future about how like how you feel about the game a year from now. You know what I mean? And how everyone feels. So
Yeah, that'd be fun.
yeah, so
Yeah,
let's
actually, I think
see.
that's probably a good idea, right? Like a
Mhm.
HSR then and now kind of thing, like how our feelings evolve with time. Because I certainly think that what Gina was just saying, this game has a more linear feel to it, right? Like, not to drop too fine a pun on it, but it feels like it's on rails a little bit.
Ha.
So
Star
I'm,
Rails.
see what I did there. But no, it does. And there's going to be a little bit more you're going to feel limited by that compared to Genshin,
Mm.
which the scale is just it's grander, it's bigger. But
You can
I
jump.
can't. You can jump. I can't tell you how many times like I point myself towards edges and just go and like think I can jump off and glide off, and then I'm like, wait, I'm not playing that game. Like,
All right.
you know, that actually happens to me in all sorts of games. Like if I'll go back and play other games, and then I like, oh nope, can't glide, or oh I
Right.
can't, like that
Oh,
happens.
there's
I've
a
actually
barrier
killed.
here.
Yeah, I've
Yep.
killed myself in other games accidentally, thinking I was playing Genshin. So yeah, that's
Wait,
the
wait,
Happens
there's
thing.
to
no
all of
glider.
us.
Boom.
Yeah, and it dead. Especially in very unforgiving games, like when you go back for your like 35,000th play of Skyrim, and you're like,
Oh
hey,
my
you
gosh.
die when you fall 5 feet. So
Yeah.
and you make that mistake. You're like, no,
Or
no, no, no,
Dark
no, no.
Souls. Like any of those games? Oh my god, so fun. I love falling to my death.
Oh
Uh,
God. Ugh.
so yeah, let's start talking about some like story stuff. So Gina, what topic would you like to tackle first?
Do you want to go over trash can lore?
All right, you wanna start that? Let's talk about it.
Uh,
What is trash can lore, Gina?
as everyone is aware of, whether by memes or other, uh, or actually like playing the game, you can interact with trash cans a whole lot in this game. And sometimes it's like a silly little message, but then sometimes, uh, it'll say, "I told you, Tatalov. I told you that you will one day collapse beside me. When that time comes, I will laugh to your dying face. Such is the wind of change." And you kind of stop, put your phone or computer down, and walk away for a second and think, "What's going on? Am I okay?
Wait,
Am I okay?"
have you done the trash can lore at all?
I may or may not have like 40 pieces of trash in my inventory for no reason. Yeah. I weirdly find myself drawn to the trash cans, which is like
Oh yeah.
what other game have you ever played where you're running through a town and you're like, "Oh my god, a trash can. Let me hang on it." Like they've turned us into trash divers. Like
There's so many memes about it. I love it so much. It's so good. Like,
it's really interesting that they've done that. They chose trash cans.
It's really
right?
bringing out my inner goblin.
Right?
Did
Like
you
it why to perspectivize the trash can thing. Like and maybe this is a thing unique to people who are really into lore, but like it's we live in a weird world where like I am more excited to find a trash can in Honkai Star Rail than I ever was to find a treasure chest in Skyrim. Didn't
Yeah,
help
oh
that
my
this
god.
treasure chests were always full of like 2 gold and a cabbage, but you know.
Right.
But still,
Yeah. So did you by the way, did you do the so this is what I was talking about with the writing, right? Where it gets you because they really just have fun with it and you can feel that they're having fun with it. Like I can't even imagine like
Mm,
I'm assuming they just gave the localizations teams free reign of like make this funny and do whatever you want with it because like translating half that stuff from Chinese is probably not what happened. Um but what's it called? The so did you do for example in the main story when you go to the hotel, the closet?
yes, I did.
Oh my god, that was amazing. Gina, did you do the closet?
yes, I hid in the closet. Felt
That
very
was
weird
something
too.
else for sure.
I was
Yeah,
like, what is happening? Like I like oh man, it's great. But and it's just a black screen with text. Like it was,
Yeah.
and it was so engaging.
And it culminates in busting out of the closet to potentially scare some poor cleaning person.
Yeah, you're like the demon of the hotel is coming. Ah, room service. Ah, like it was fantastic. So those little moments, right now, like you said, like the scale isn't as grand as as in Genshin. So instead of those crazy moments in the game, those little moments during exploration, there's not much of that. So the exploration they give you is like these text-based, really interesting things where you're thankful that you interacted with something because it's
Mm-hmm.
so interesting, or it's funny, or it tries to be funny, and so like there's so much. It's so interesting to see how they kind of try to keep your attention in a different way because you know I know we're going to be comparing these games. We're going to be going back and forth a lot between Genshin and
Absolutely.
Honkai because they're the same, company, and a lot of things are very similar. And I'm sure there are overlapping themes, but there are different games aimed at different audiences. And I don't necessarily expect all Genshin players to play Honkai Star Rail and vice versa. And so the game has its own way of engaging with its players, and I think this is such a unique thing. Like I feel like if you did this in Genshin, people would just be like, okay, text, 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 like I got it, ha ha ha, check, check, check. Okay, let me run around. but in Honkai Star Rail, you're like, oh man, like I can investigate this. What does this do? like because I can't do anything else. I can't jump. I can't go anywhere. So like this, I hope this is interesting, and it usually is. And yeah, it's really fun to see like how they are trying to keep your attention in this game versus Genshin, for example.
Well, and that I think you're right. It was really important that they do that, right? Because if they
Mm-hmm.
had, say, made a turn-based version of Genshin. It would have basically come out as Genshin Impact with a different coat of paint on it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
different characters, a different world, but the same idea. And it really, all it would have done was been one, a direct competitor for a game they are also trying to run,
Right.
which is not great for business. Two, it would have been basically pandering, and they knew
Mm-hmm.
better than to do that. So they made a game that caters to a different crowd, basically. So they weren't trying to steal players from their own title, which is wise,
It's
but they
weird
figured
to
they
do
were
that.
going to get some anyways. But
Mm-hmm.
generally speaking, turn-based RPGs are not a thing that gets a lot of attention anymore. And so
Yeah.
for them to have chosen this route was surprising, for
Right.
one.
And it's
Like,
so well done too.
it
Like if you
is
think
really
about
well
it.
done.
Yeah.
As somebody who grew up playing a lot of turn-based RPGs, because
Mm.
I was young during the great era of Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Um, so like, I grew up with games like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, Tactics. Like, those were the big ones for me. And while
Mm-hmm.
I've grown to love games, some of the more modern ones, like Final Fantasy 7 Remake
Mm-hmm.
and Final Fantasy 15 are really great. They've stepped away from the old style turn-based combat.
Mm-hmm.
And really,
16
most
especially.
I don't want to talk about 16. Um, that game is, I will never play that game.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
not
for a different
interested.
podcast.
Yeah.
Conversation for a different podcast.
I have deep feels about that game, and they
Mm.
have lost me. We'll just say it that way. So
So
bring on Rebirth. Bring on Final
so
Fantasy 7
so
Rebirth.
bring on the Honkai Star Rail content, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that. Like, I'm fine with action combat. Let me reiterate. I'm fine with that. Just not how they've done it. So yeah, Honkai Star Rail, they've found a way to kind of refresh an old genre.
Mm.
And I think that is the thing that a lot of people are overlooking, is like, like they're like, yeah, this is cool, whatever, and they're playing it, but like, and then it's turn-based, cool, but like, they've refreshed it. It's not just old school turn-based combat. Like, they found a way to make it a little spicier, a little bit faster paced.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, it eliminates some of that complexity that old turn-based games were known for, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of turned people off. And this doesn't really have any of that. It has that simple combat concept that like Genshin had, that everybody loved, and it made it so approachable.
Yeah.
But they changed the gameplay to turn-based, and it's just the genius behind that. It does work, and I was expecting that complex, complicated turn-based style. It's one of the things that,
Mm.
like, it resulted in me starting the game like, what, a month late, because
Mm-hmm.
I already had so much going on. I was trying desperately to keep up with Genshin at the time. I was in the middle of a big move,
Right.
and so I'm like, here's Star Rail over here, and I'm like, I need to start this, but I don't know if I really have it in me right now. I don't have the energy to
Mm-hmm.
devote to learning this thing right now. And then
Right.
I started, and I was like, oh, this is actually really simple. Why did
Yeah.
I think Hoyoverse was going to make this convoluted mess of a combat system? Like, why I didn't? I was just wrong. I was just wrong. So and more excited about that I could not be, because they nailed it. They did, like, from a combat side, and just an implementation side for the world, and in its own very grounded exploration compared to Genshin. It just works. They created, um I should say, a sense of discovery, despite the fact that the scale is much smaller. Um, and that's big. That's big. I think that's hard to do.
I agree that it's something hard to do, and I think it's really great that Hoyo managed to find a good way to do it. What things have really brought you into Honkai, TH?
Well, so obviously, like, I'm going to be ever, like, comparing this game to Genshin for a lot of things, and I think that's what everybody's going to be doing, and everybody's going to be waiting for those little crossover type things where you're like, yeah, these are in the same world, or at least in the same multiverse of some sort. Um, And so while we haven't really found a whole lot of that yet, and I think that that's by design, the things that I can lock into that I think that I've really been enjoying right now is just the characters. And this is the same reason that I ended up really sucked into Genshin Impact, was that the characters are so well defined from the moment you first see them. The characters have a good presence, they have a good, like, you immediately know who this character is, and so does the character, and that's the most important thing. They're not wishy-washy. They don't do things that are out of character for them. They have distinct personalities. And there's tons of games that have come out over the years where the characters are ill-defined and don't have depth, and or are very predictable. And Star Rail just doesn't. It's just like Genshin. It doesn't do that. The characters have a great sense of individuality and are well formed. And I just appreciate exploring that aspect of a Hoyo title. They make great characters. They make character stories. And watching those individual characters' journeys is really interesting. And I think that that's one of the ways that, like, Hoyo in general shines. Uh, because they
For
give
sure.
you an MC, and then they give you these teeny little threads for the MC's story. But they give you lots of growth and interesting stories for all of the other characters. So it keeps you satiated while you're waiting for those story updates for your MC. Um, for instance, I constantly find myself thinking that I can predict some of the characters in Star Rail, and then I'm wrong. For instance, like March 7th, I never know what the hell how she's gonna react to something. She's kind of fickle, and like that's what give I think it kind of makes her personality real. Because some people are like that. I think we've all known people who are you're like, I honestly don't know how
100%
this person is
consistent.
going to react. Say
Yeah.
that again.
Oh, nobody's 100% consistent in all of their reactions all the time.
Correct. Yeah, and sometimes maybe Genshin falls into that a little bit, where like, yeah, I know exactly how this character will react to this, or I know how Eula will react to that, or obviously Amber will react to this way to this. But like characters like March 7th, like for instance, right before they went to Xianzhou Laofu, when they went there for the first time. Um, and they were all putting in the hands to vote for whether or not they were gonna do what Kafka said. She's going on and on and on talking about how we all have to have uniformity, we can't put our hands in. And then I'm like, okay, so like you have your own choice, you can decide for the MC whether or not you'll put your hand in. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna put my hand in, but here comes Marge, she's not gonna put her hand in, and then she puts her hand in, and I'm like, oh.
Didn't see it coming.
Yeah, it caught me off guard, and I thought that that was kind of a refreshing thing. It was surprising, but not surprising, because the thing that um that March 7th has been doing is keeping me on my toes the whole game. I never know how she's gonna react to something. Like, you pick one of the joke lines, and sometimes she thinks it's funny, and then you pick the joke line the next time, and she gets mad at you, and you're wow, what a
Like, can you be serious for one moment, please?
yeah, and you get these like these fickle moments, and it makes the characters real. It makes you think that they have their own internal monologue whilst you're going through all of these scenes. And I think some games lack that, like
Yeah,
the
for sure.
characters are flat. Like you get the sense that maybe they're not thinking until the moment their line comes up, and but you do get the thought that each of these characters have their own individual line of thinking while you're also playing through things, which is it's nice. It's well defined characters. I think that's where this game is shining for sure.
For sure. Do you have anything to add to that, Josh?
No, I mean I totally agree. Like the I haven't okay. I was about to say I haven't found a single character I don't like, but actually there's one I don't like. So I am just not a general fan of like the sleazy merchant characters. Like
Oh,
I'm not really like a Dory fan in Genshin. I'm not really a Sampo fan in this game. Um, so I do like his design. I do like both of their designs though, but like as characters, just not a vibe I vibe with. Um, so yeah. But other than that, like every character, I'm so interested in them. Like just like every character, I want to pull for every character. I want to get every character. Like I told myself I wouldn't do that in this game because I do it in Genshin, and it's already
Yeah.
like cost me. I'm at a
Yeah,
deficit
I'm
here.
in the same boat. I'm
Yeah,
absolutely in the same boat. I know that
r-
feel.
right. Like
Tax
I have
write-off,
every
right?
character in Genshin, but like, oh, phew. But yeah, I mean the characters are great. Do you have a favorite character, Th,
Ooh, um,
so far?
you know, I feel like I'm still trying to feel out from a lore perspective who my favorite character is right now. Um, so I really don't know. Like from a gameplay standpoint, I'm really digging on Silverwolf,
Ooh,
because like she weakens everything for you to an element that you already have primed in your party. So
mm,
it kind of makes mono teams kind of work more than you might think.
exactly. It's OP.
Um, but if I had to pick a character who I kind of think is maybe like my favorite from a personality and like a growth arc kind of thing, it's probably Bronya. She's
Ooh,
she's the flaw in that and fights for what she knows is right because she thought she was always fighting for what was right and she's learning slowly that what's right, like she was being kind of forced
Manipulated.
through. Yeah, she was being forced to see the world through a small lens, but really, it took Zele to come out and show her that it was different, and she recognized that, admitted her faults, and followed her heart to the right path. And so I appreciated that growth arc. And so I would have to say Bronya, and it also brings me to the sadness that I cannot get that character. It just she will not show up in any of the roles yet. And I think I'm dying inside.
oh, wait,
T,
for Bronya?
Yeah.
are you a fan of Kujo Sara by any chance?
I do like Kujo Sara. She's a really interesting character.
Yeah, similar arc to Bronya is why I was asking.
Yeah, I can definitely see why you would say that. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite, Gina?
My favorite is, as always, Himiko. I loved
Oh,
her since HI 3. I
mm-hmm.
also really vibe with erudition in HSR. I think
Oh,
News, the genius one, the aeon of logic and thinking is something that I find really fun as a concept, and
hmm.
I enjoy seeing the different ways different characters react to that path. I love Himiko's decision to restart the Star Rail, possibly with a God's Heart as the engine. We can talk about that. Uh, and also, I got eyes. She's pretty.
I got eyes. Let me tell you.
I
Let's
got
just
eyes,
hope
and
that
they're looking.
let's just hope that she has a happier
Oh my
A
god.
story
happier path.
progression.
Let's just hope that she,
Yeah, let's just hope
survives.
for that. And we all know that she's going to show up in Genshin. We know that's going to happen.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I mean,
we know the
obviously
name of the
Murata,
l-
that
Murata.
land.
yeah,
Yeah.
Murata, yeah, like literally an entire race of people. She's going to be the Pyro Archon. We know that's going to be a thing.
If she isn't, I riot.
I agree. I do.
Yeah.
She better be.
I'll I'll
God, she better
I'll
be.
riot. I'll riot.
Hell yeah, we got a small
I have
army.
riot capacity. I can do it.
Hell yeah. What about you,
Um,
Josh? Who's your favorite?
that's a loaded question.
It is.
Jing Yuan.
Ooh.
Okay. Okay. I mean, given the animation that they made for him, like I can
Mm-hmm.
see why he's an intriguing character too. Because he's somebody who definitely wants to make the world great. Make the people under his charge, like he wants them to be safe. He wants to make the right choices, and he's had a bit of a tragic past where,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he had to basically mercy kill his own master. Like what the.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's
the
so
like
sad.
we'll talk about this when we talk about 1.2, but like the implications of like Yanqing being his student
Yeah.
and the name of this next patch being called Even Immortality Ends.
Yeah, and that brings me to an interesting thought too, is that I've noticed while being in this portion of the story that there's like this weird I noticed they have laws about extension of life,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was an interesting note because it seems like they all live really long. There was like another note from one of the NPCs offhand about a guard who's only 200 years old. Like, how could they possibly have been this badly impacted by what is it, the Morrow or whatever? And
Yeah, the
so
Mara.
and so they like obviously they have extended lifespans. Hell, you have the draconic race, people like Belu, who
Yeah.
literally reincarnate themselves. So like she's not even like, she looks like a child but is not. And so you have there's a lot of complexity there. I'm really curious, and obviously you can tell me if this has already been happening, but obviously Dan Hung is from this place, and is he one of the draconic? Is he like them too? Because I noticed he has horns.
Yeah, you saw the drip marketing, right?
Yeah, he has horns, so I'm guessing he's a reincarnated being as well. He had something that also caught my attention when I was playing through part of the story. Is he mentioned something about immortality causing people to no longer be human, and I was like, well, that's an interesting thing for him to have said. Like, that to me says that he has some experience with that, and that was before you even get to
Genuine.
yeah, exactly. I keep struggling with the name of that place. And
Mhm.
most of it's just I know I'm gonna say it wrong, and so I'm like trying to
Oh, the
figure out how to say
Shanzo
it.
Lam, the
Yeah, the
Laofu? Yeah,
Xianzhou Laofu. Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, and that was while you were still in Bellowbog that he had that mention.
right.
So and so yeah, it was something that I was tracking. I was
Mhm.
waiting for that to come back into relevancy, and then yeah, the drip marketing. You're like, oh,
Yeah, and then
he
you
might
see
be.
the
He's like Belu.
Jingyuan animation,
Yeah.
where like his master lived too long and then
Hmm.
became crazy and like all this stuff. So, yeah,
And
I'm really
and
excited to find out.
that gives me thoughts about that only 200-year-old guard, where they're like, is this
Mhm.
just what is destined for them? Do they go like they all just live until they go crazy and somebody has to kill them? Is that what like what all of their destinies are? Like, if so, that's tragic as hell. Um, it's kind of a little bit darker than I was anticipating. But
Oh yeah,
because
I
like
expect the game to be
Genshin,
pretty dark. Yeah.
yeah, but like this game is, it's a Honkai title, right? Which is
Right.
the Honkai Impact is dark. But
Mhm.
Genshin is not. It's actually most of the time pretty wholesome, with dark themes having to be dug out of the books and the
Right.
deeper lore. But
Sure.
this game, I think it's also doing what Genshin did. It's keeping things generally wholesome on the surface and hiding some of the darkness behind exploration. And
Right.
it keeps it keeps the game more accessible, for one, and it makes it rewarding for people like us, which is great.
Mhm.
I really appreciate that. Things are messed up there. Things are really messed up there.
Sure are.
Something. Say what?
So I said sure are.
Oh yeah. One of the things that I also noticed, and they kind of lingered on it, and it gave me an immediate Genshin feel, was
Mm.
um, that the Xianzhou, their whole ship being where they
Mhm.
live, it has a false sky projected over it.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, so we're doing this. We're just establishing within this place, this specific location, they have the ability to just project, a celestial dome over the world, so that everybody doesn't just get exposure to space and feel like the vastness
Like the
of
vastness of
space. Yeah.
space, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like they have like this normal blue sky that, and it makes weather, and it does all of this stuff, and it makes me now wonder um whether or not the planet that Teyvat is on in Genshin Impact is something like this, and are we going to eventually explore this as a concept? Because the Traveler is not terribly different than the Trailblazer in that regard. Like the Traveler was traveling from world to world up until they were interrupted, and the Trailblazer is doing that, but on the Astral Express. So like we have like this immediate um crossover of concept with like the whole false sky idea, and it locked me in immediately. I was like, is this what they're like? Are they giving us an early explanation of the kind of like the precursor to what we're seeing in Teyvat through through this place? Is our world in Genshin Impact like an artificial creation? Is this a planet that is actually a ship of some kind? um I want to know. I have to know.
A lot of good questions to think about, to linger on. For something a little bit lighter, a question from the chat is who all of our first 5 stars were. Uh, I got lucky, and my first 5 star was Himiko, my wife. What about yours, TH?
Well, I still don't have Himiko either. Himiko and Bronya are the two that have eluded me from the basic
Ooh,
banner. Sadly,
rip.
they were the two I wanted. Like literally, I was
Oh
like, okay,
no.
Bronya and Himiko, please. They're the only two I haven't gotten. My first character I
Oh.
got 5-star was Welt.
Oof.
Ah, I mean, Welt's a baddie.
Same.
I
Well.
actually haven't built him yet, so he's
What?
just
Oh man.
he's riding the bench.
F in the chat.
He's amazing. F in the chat.
F in the chat.
He's riding the bench for now. Like I'm actually, as of completing the Urillo 6 story, I've actually kind of started using the MC with the whole the whole Fire Lance build because I thought it was a lot more interesting.
Mhm.
I wasn't. I don't know why I wasn't anticipating that the MC was gonna have like a Genshin Impact style multi-elemental idea. Like
I
all of a sudden
wasn't
now you have
either.
all of a sudden
Yes.
you have this preservation character and you're like, wait a minute. So I was just non-elemental for the entire first planet. Now I have
Yep.
pyro
You're
that one.
physical.
presentation or preservation. Like okay, let's do this. That
Ooh.
it caught me off guard.
You know what's also cool is like that is one of the best units in the game right now still.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I immediately built it and was like, okay, I have to try this. And I have I have really been digging having the MC as a useful character in my team because that's something again I've never
Right?
had.
Are you
Because
using
the
female or
traveler is
male?
so female.
Nice. I use male, and do you know that they have different animations for all their abilities?
I did not know that.
Yeah, you should go look those up.
Yeah, I'll have to go and watch some videos for that.
For both paths, like the physical
really?
one
Okay.
and the destruction and the other one, their ultimates are different and their skills look a little different. So
Okay.
um
I actually kind of just imagined they would be identical.
yeah, no, they're not. It's pretty cool.
You took the time.
Yeah, it's nice. I was gonna say that what's it called? Oh, so the wealth thing, just like a real quick thing. You know how you mentioned like solo teams are possible with Silver Wolf?
Yeah, mono elemental.
Yes. But yeah, sorry, mono elemental. So I'm actually doing the mono imaginary team with Welt, Locha, and Madame Yukong.
Nice.
And
I actually
like,
just got her today. I'm curious
it's
to how
so
she's
good.
gonna work.
She's great. I mean, if you're gonna use her, use Welt because she buffs imaginary damage as one of her passive abilities.
Okay. Noted.
But yeah, it's really fun. Woo, great. Also, she's a baddie. Also, all the character designs are so good.
They are really cool. Agreed.
Just so good. Like,
I have to tell you, the only character, and this is, I don't know what word to describe it. Like the only character in this whole game that I really wasn't excited about getting was like the second character I ended up getting, which was it's a kind of a thing that was changed for me by her introduction in the story, which was Bailu. I was like, I got her almost immediately after I got Welt. Like it was like a
nice.
freebie, right? Like 10 rolls later, I got her again, or I got her, and I was like, okay, I got another 5-star, and it's the one character I really was like, I don't care about this character. Cool, bench. And then during one of my last streams, like people convinced me to build her, and like she's really good. So like that works. So I still wasn't really terribly excited about the character. And then she shows up in the story. And I'm like, wait, so you're actually much older and you're reincarnated. And now I'm suddenly a lot more interested in this character's like progression and who she is and what's going on with it. It gave the character so much more depth for me immediately, more appreciable. So it's just one of those things that just like sneaks up and surprises you.
Yeah, I was also like about Bailu, like her random healing, like how it bounces around.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Useful
like,
but frustrating.
Yeah, I was like, this is okay. And then I found out that when I was doing the harder content, that she has an auto revive, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
well, this is amazing.
Unless, of course, that auto revive has been sealed by another enemy, which is the only time I've had a character die so far. I've had no game overs still, not a single one. but during the fight with Kafka, she used that confuse ability that locks down Bailu and killed my
Ah,
Serval. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
it did. Is this still gonna resurrect it? It didn't resurrect. What the hell? I was
Servo,
so
come
mad.
back!
Yeah, she's just like completely dead. It's the first time I've had a character actually die and be inaccessible for the rest of the battle, because the only other time I've had a character die was also Serval, and she was immediately resurrected by Bailu, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing, but okay, cool. Yeah. So long story short, if they use a confusion ability against you, she won't auto res. That doesn't
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I forgot about that. Like the whole. Did you know that the guys the Mara stricken soldiers that revive themselves, if you debuff them, they won't revive.
Any debuff?
Like you remove the buff from them.
Okay. So what does it just push
Sorry,
it
buff
off?
removal. Buff removal.
Buff
Yeah,
remove.
yeah, buff. Like yeah,
Oh
so that's a
yeah.
thing. Because apparently
I
Pella
haven't
can do
tried
that.
that. That's
Who I
cool.
don't use Pella, but she has that
I haven't built
ability.
her yet either.
And Luocha also has that ability. I think they might be the only two people that have that ability right now. But
I don't have
the
Ultra. Yeah.
just like the fact that you can do that, like not let them revive by doing it, it's kind of like the same thing almost. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. But
I was thinking about rolling for Ultra, and then I found out Kafka was coming up next, and was like,
I
okay,
yeah,
nope, gonna wait,
Priorities.
because
Priorities.
the
I
priorities exactly.
Kafka is probably one of the characters I'm most interested in.
Same.
But I'll get into that later when we start talking about other things. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
I'll
we'll get into
explain
it.
that. She is
Gameplay or lore
Hell,
wise, or both.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes
both
sense.
for sure. Like gameplay wise, she looks super awesome. But lore wise, this is the character I think from a lore perspective, like for a character that's not been on screen developed yet, like we don't really know who this person is. She's the one I have the most interest in.
Also, 10 out of 10 design.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Very cool.
I
have eyes.
Yeah, she reads to me a lot like, and I have no idea what her name is because I don't consume leaks. Like the Electro Gunner character that's coming in Fontaine, she looks a lot like that to me.
Oh my god, I can't
That
wait for her
character,
too.
that
Same.
character, I am extremely excited for. Oh my
Eyes,
god. Oh my
eyeballs. I have them.
We all got eyeballs, and we're looking respectfully.
Oh,
Sometimes.
respectfully. Oh yeah,
You should do
Sometimes.
that.
respectfully sometimes. I like that. Sometimes respectfully. Yeah. So, yeah, great. I mean, just oh man, I could like really gush about the characters. They're so cool. So, we're gonna go on break soon, and when we come back, we will talk about. Well, let's talk about wealth. We'll talk about a little bit about maybe the Stellaron Hunter concepts, maybe Aeons, and then we'll end talking about the 1.2 live stream.
Sounds good.
So yeah, so we will talk about that. So let's go on our 5 minute break right about now. So let's go on our 5 minute break now, and then we will be back in 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
Okay, so see you soon. Okay, everyone, welcome back to our One More Cup of Coffee podcast. And yeah, so hopefully we had a good break and everyone's ready and refreshed to talk about some more Honkai Star Rail. So let's get started with our next topic, which is let's talk about wealth. So I just want to mention wealth because earlier, as I mentioned, we like Welt is the only character who is actually from a different Hoyoverse game who is directly related to this game. Welt is himself from Honkai Impact 3rd, who has moved across universes, I guess I could say, to get to this universe. And this is revealed in a web comic, I believe. And there's a lot of different things that I want to mention about that. But one thing is I don't know if you noticed, TH and Gina. Oh, there's some kids yelling outside. Hold on a second. I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the space station there is like the traveler's wings and
I actually haven't
some
found those yet.
and also Himeko's sword from Honkai Impact 3rd.
I
And
actually
Vin's
have no
playing
idea where
cards.
those are. I've been told that they're there, but I have not actually had the time to go and look at them myself.
And Gina, what was it? The playing cards?
Yeah, Vin's playing cards from Tears of Themis.
Oh, there you go, from another Hoyoverse game. So they are definitely connected in some way. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to like what those objects actually are, whether they're they're copies of information created by information gathered from other places or what have you. But just those show some link to other worlds. But Weld himself is his character from Honkai Impact. So Gina, do you actually know about that at all?
I do. I haven't read all of the uh, manga comic material that they've put out, but I am aware
Mm-hmm.
that him and his bestie decided to go out and explore the universe. And according to the lore within HSR, uh, something happened. I can't remember if their ship crashed, if it exploded, if it malfunctioned, or what have you. But both were given the option to uh, hang out with the Star Rail and uh, the Star Rail people, and Welt chose to stay and try to figure out a way back home. And his friend, whose name I can't remember, decided, "Nah, I'm good. I'll go my own way."
his his bestie.
His bestie.
Who happens to look like exactly like Locha, by the way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He's kind of like the alternate
Void,
version, same voice actor,
yeah. Void
everything.
Archives. That's his name.
Void Archives, yes, that's his name. So, and so they have this choice to like step through this portal and kind of come to this world. And I think it's the the first person that Welt meets is Himeko in this world. And it's like a huge coincidence because obviously him and Himeko were really close in Honkai Impact
Right.
third. And so this is kind of like, Welt is kind of like, I will protect Himiko in whatever universe, like that kind of like, I mean, they had like a teacher student relationship or whatever, but he's
Mm-hmm.
so super protective. He's like, dad, like, overprotective or protective dad kind of vibe, I guess. But yeah, he's kind of trying to, I think, prevent the tragic
Yeah,
path that
he's
happens.
got a second chance.
Right, in a way, and it's really interesting. Like Himiko is the one that like started up the Star Rail again. And did you wait, Th? Did you know that like you can end the game early? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, right at the beginning of the game. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, during my I think it was one of my might have been it was
I
the
think you
stream
did
where I
it,
finished up
right?
AI. I did yeah, when I was finishing up the space station. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Do this, do this, do this." So I did it and yeah, like you just get like a fake goofy ending for the game and it just brings you back to the login screen.
Yeah, so
And then it
good.
just, it reloads like you didn't do it. But like, yeah, it's like the game is over and like it's kind of weirdly sad.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind
Right.
of makes it
Oh,
seem as if like your MC just lived out a pointless life on the space station.
right, right.
Like,
So
it just
yeah, you have
okay.
that like Himiko's in charge, and so yeah, he's kind of on this journey with Himiko to kind of explore this universe, and I think he's also looking for a way back to his universe, I believe, but
Pretty sure,
isn't
yeah.
like yeah, but isn't like super duper concerned because there's a Himiko in this universe, and
Because
there's
this one's doing great.
yeah, and there's a lot of exactly. This one's doing great. Let's see how this goes. And there's a lot of implication. I saw someone in the chat earlier said like, um, you know, Welt knows more about you than you do, like your main character. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
suspect as much.
like have you used Welt in your account at all, or anybody else's Welt? Like, did you borrow a Welt?
I have not. No. In fact,
Okay,
the only character I have borrowed is
Zaylet.
the exact same person's Zayla every
Yep,
single time
yep,
because
same.
she just one shots everything. And then she one
Exactly.
shots the next enemy, and then she one shots the enemy after that because for some reason she just gets to go 3 turns in a row.
Yep, that's her thing. Um, so yeah, so if you use Welt and you use his ultimate ability, he has this really cool thing where he like makes a like gravity well and like all this stuff, and he's like, you don't know the meaning of this power or something like that, and it's just like really cool that like he is so knowledgeable about like the universe and what is
Hmm.
really happening outside of this universe as well, but he's kind of just there, and he's kind of here to learn about this universe as well. So just knowing that Welt has that connection. Now here's another thing, right? Welt and Bronya in Honkai Impact Third have a really big connection as well, because
Hmm.
Welt teaches Bronya how to use her powers, which he gives to her, and um you meet this world's version of Bronya in Belobog, but Welt doesn't come down, so Welt
Right.
never meets Bronya. So I'm really curious to see if he will ever meet her in this world, or if he'll meet Locha, which like I mean he's got to soon because they're in the same place right now. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of implications about like how Welt is going to react when he sees these characters is going to be like a
Right.
really big deal. So knowing that they have history is kind of all you really need to know. Um, to kind of see what may or may not come up in the future. Like I have no idea, but I assume that when they meet, Welt will be like, huh, like do a double take sort of thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, Welt is a very cool character, a very key character. Makes me think like, will he just show up in Genshin one day? Who knows?
Well, and
Like,
that gives me an interesting thought. It does. So we have established this rare incident that resulted in Welt being the crossover character from Honkai Impact Third,
mm-hmm,
and so he keeps running into or tangentially like running into um other Honkai Impact Third characters in their different lives as this in this other universe. But it makes it almost seem as if like in any universe their lives are intertwined in some way. Um
mm-hmm.
so it's like there's some kind of like fated thing, right? Like think like I don't know if any of you have seen Across the Spider-Verse, like where like the webs of fate, like they're all intertangled and like this is the canon, like no matter what, there are certain people who are always going to be intertwined. And
Which
it
I
kind of
believe is
has
BS. Yes,
yeah, like I mean probably.
sure,
But
that's what
like
happens every time.
yeah, sure. But yeah, so they could be doing something like that similar here, where like the characters must be on some level intertwined. But if we're going to be, as time progresses with Honkai Star Rail, visiting all of these other worlds, is it then perhaps possible that we could also find alternate, universe versions of Genshin characters? That could also be very interesting. Like what if we like as like probably a low hanging easy one, like literally like are we going to go to one of these planets in the future and find a an alternate version of a like that's like to
Right,
me that's like an obvious one because she is already in herself kind of an
right.
alternate version of
Of May,
um
yeah.
yes.
So
So like
yeah, that's
that's
a good
like
point. Yeah.
yeah, and and then also, if and maybe this would just be a good question for all of us, what character from Genshin Impact, I mean non-alternate universe, I mean just straight up like Genshin Impact character,
A
do you
Genshin
think is
character, right?
yeah would be most likely to end up a full-fledged nameless on the Astral Express?
Oh.
Like because it's happened to Welt, right? Like there's already a crossover,
Mhm.
there's a precedent for it. I know exactly who I think it would be, but I'm curious to hear who I think or who you guys think it would be.
I mean Alice.
I was
That's a
also
good
gonna
one.
say Alice.
That's a good one. That's
But
a
like
good one.
of who we have, you mean?
Of characters who we know their personalities well,
Mhm.
and um and would actually probably relish in said opportunity.
I mean,
Hmm.
based on the lore of the KFC wings is why I'm thinking Alice because
Right.
those came from another world,
Sure.
and she was like, "Oh, these are cool, but they'd be cooler if they were red," and so she just started painting them, and that's why we have the red wings. Uh,
What about like the characters that we have already?
Yeah, for characters that we have, because I feel like if it turned out that happened with Alice, I don't think anybody would be terribly surprised.
Exactly. That's kind of what I would think too. Like everyone would say Alice, but like
But
who do
as
we
like a
kind of want
future
to be there?
development,
Like
yeah,
yeah.
it's like a future development that surprises you. They could actually like potentially leave the world of Teyvat behind to become a nameless upon the Express.
Hmm. I I don't think this would be like a potential thing, but I think it would be hilarious if Ito just found himself
Oh my god.
just
oh
go with
I
the
yes,
don't think
flow,
I don't
Ito,
think anybody would like that. I think that the players would probably like it, but I think that
Oh yeah,
everybody on
the
the
characters would
everybody
hate
on
it.
the Express would hate it. They
Oh,
would absolutely
100%.
hate it. Although I think that the character who I think would be best for this would also, I think all the other characters would probably hate it too because she's so weird. I honestly, you guys, I think that the character most suited to it would be Fischl. I really
I'm so
do.
wait. Do you know that Fisher was in Honkai Impact Third?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, but she was like it was different. It's not like
But
she's from
it was
Genshin. It was
non-canon. It was yeah, it was a
yeah,
non-canon side event kind of thing.
yeah. But it was also like
But
she was a projection from a storybook kind of deal. Like it
correct.
wasn't like she is official from
Yeah.
Genshin.
So, but this is a character who lives a second life inside of her own head.
Right.
And she to me is like the most prone character to living the astral life, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
traveling the stars with the Astral Express and helping them figure out whatever's going on with like, Stellaron bursts and what have you. Like this is a character who I could see just leaving Mondstadt and going on her, her life of adventuring as the, the space princessin or something. And like this would just I think it would work. I do, and I think it could be really an interesting way to proceed with that character because right now after the summer event that they did for with her last year, I feel like they've maybe written themselves into a little bit of a corner with Fischl where I don't know that they have a lot left to do with her.
Yeah,
um
yeah, that's true. I mean, they
I
kind of have
think
fleshed her out a lot, but
they
I think
did.
Fischl would be good, but I also think Kasua, as somebody who's used to being a wanderer and a
A
vagabond,
wanderer.
would also be
Yeah,
good.
oh,
I could see
true.
that. I could see that.
Along with him, also Scaramouche.
Oh, true.
Oh, I don't think anybody would want that.
Yeah, I don't even think Scaramouche would want that,
I
but
don't think he
like,
would want it either because I think he'd just be pissy about it. They'd really have to
He's
convince him to help
already a piss
anybody.
boy.
So
you're
I
right.
feel like to me, the thing that would stop him, I honestly don't think he would go because thinking about like who his character is, his mission is to make right all the things that he did wrong. And if
Hmm.
he were to leave, he upends that mission.
That's
He will
true. That's
literally
true.
leave his life's mission unfinished. And he has centuries of damage to repair. Eh, he's got his work cut out for
Ooh,
him.
I got a
Not to
good one.
mention we have unresolved threads between him and A that they had
Oh,
better
true.
address. They had better address that.
And that better not be a limited event. That
It's
can you
gonna.
imagine? Like,
It's
uh
gonna.
I feel like that
it's
would be
gonna be.
like
Yeah.
Wanderer's Story Quest Part 2 or something like that. But
Or
you know,
or A's
well, A
like
has
story
2
quest part
already.
3.
Yeah. I don't I wonder when we're gonna get to part threes of a 5-star story quest. But Wanderer could use it. They give him a lot of love already as it is. So
Mm. I
that
think that
but
they need to do it as an A quest because she needs more like she's had a lot of development, don't get me wrong, but there's
mhm.
so many people who are still hung up on the things that they perceive that she did that she didn't do that
Mm,
it makes her so misunderstood and they really need to tackle that.
that's a good point. Um for like the who would join the star crew or whatever, I was thinking Farzan.
Oh,
Ooh.
Farazan. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
I think
Yeah.
'cause she's already naturally misplaced from her time in Teyvat, and she has a knack for technology and puzzles and things and adventure exploration. She was exploring dungeons to find out how their mechanics worked, and I think she would
Yeah.
be super intrigued to go to different worlds and do the same thing.
Yeah, I think that that is a good one.
Yeah,
That could
but
be
I
really
also had the thought that
interesting.
like because I was thinking along because I was started thinking about technology and like how much technology is present in Honkai Star Rail, who would be good for that? And I'm thinking like, maybe there'll be a couple of Fontaine characters that'll be good for this question because
Very
of the way
probable.
Fontaine works, right? So yeah, but yeah, Farzan I guess is my answer.
I do think
Um,
Farazan is a good one. Yeah. Or they could
yeah,
just send, Jung Lee and then he can meet Welt and they can do like the spider meme or Spider-Man pointing meme and then he I don't know, just have
they
some
just be
tea.
like, "Hey, I'm Zhong Li. Hey, I'm Welt. Hey, how's?" they just they both
Just
have like really
real
deep
flat
voices.
conversation with deep
Yeah.
voices. Yeah.
Do you want some tea? Yeah, I'll have some tea. Sure. Wow. What are those on your face? Those are glasses. Do you want some? Sure. I don't know.
Some of them
Oh
just real
man.
flat.
But
No, yeah, I think
yeah.
Farazan's a good thought. That's another good one.
I don't know if
Um
this is a good thought, but character interaction I would love to see is Amber and/or Yoimiya with March 7th.
oh my gosh.
You can see it
Just
Okay.
soon.
give me all that energy. So much energy in that conversation. I love it.
You know, Oh, I feel like that would be something like just I don't know if you guys had any of those experience where you're walking by like the table of like 16, 17-year-old girls like at lunch or something, and it just everybody's talking like really fast the entire time, and there's so
Yeah.
much energy there that like it would be like that, like, oh my god, did you see this, and this, did you see this,
Oh.
you can't get a word in edgewise. I think that's what it would be with them, because they all
Yeah.
talk really fast, they all have a lot of energy.
Yeah, I
As
love it.
someone who was involved in Greek life in college, I know perfectly well the energy they would have, and I would look forward to it.
Oh, that would, yeah, that would be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Like, so, yeah, I mean, I love that. Like, I love that concept, though, because, like, up until now, it's been Honkai to Genshin, because Honkai came out first, and then Honkai to Honkai is, like, makes sense already. But we haven't seen a Genshin character that wasn't in Honkai. We're all waiting for when the
Yeah,
Honkai character is going to come to Genshin, but what about the Genshin characters coming back to Honkai, right? Like,
yeah,
it's very unlikely characters from Genshin would come to Honkai Impact Third because it's all girls and it's like a very specific story. It's kind of toward the end of the story already.
yeah.
But Honkai Star Rail is just beginning. It has so much variety. It has variety in worlds.
They have a
So
lot they
there's
can
so
do
much
there.
potential.
And I
Yeah,
think the
so much
crossover
potential.
is, like Thanos, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It has to be a thing. And
And if they
and this
don't
is
do it,
why
I'll be like Thanos and just do it myself.
yeah, exactly. That's a good video idea. Actually, this is actually, I feel like I have to think this could be a good way for me to break into, just like this is a thought exercise, is a good way to just make it,
Yeah,
maybe my
do it.
first Honkai Star Rail video is just, what Genshin characters should cross over. Um,
Oh,
but
that's fun.
like we have to be, and this is another question that I had, because I maybe I'm interpreting this wrong with the Astral Express, but we'd have to be like, if a Genshin character were going to cross over to become a nameless, we have to be ready to say goodbye to them in Genshin Impact, because at least
Oh,
from a story standpoint, because
right.
as I understand it, once the Astral Express leaves a place, it doesn't go back. So and this is one of the things where I'm like, okay, how do all these side quests work? Because I haven't had the time to knock into all of these side quests yet. But the side quests where you go back to Eurilla 6, like, how does all this work? Like, do they technically take place in the time between, when you finish the story quest and you left, or
Yes.
is
So
it
no, no,
okay?
no. So
So
they
it's
no,
before you
no, they
left.
no. Sorry. That you come back.
So you do go back.
Yeah, and the cool thing is when you I don't know how it works like technically. Like, are they riding the train back and forth? I guess so. Obviously you just teleport between worlds, but once you complete a character story quest, much like your teapot in
Yeah,
Genshin,
I know that
the
they
character will come
appear.
hang out
I
in
have
the thing,
Asta.
right?
Yeah, she's the only one I've
Yeah.
done so far.
So
Yeah.
she comes in and she's like, "Wow, well, this train, that's so cool, whatever." And like, so yeah, some of the story quests, I believe they say like, "Hey, before you have you left yet? Like, can you do do you want to do this or whatever?" But I think there are some that imply that you've already left and come back. So it might vary, especially as the story goes on. I'm assuming we'll go forward, and then characters will have quests that come afterwards, and then we go backward, and then we've already experienced whatever has happened until then.
Right.
So that'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on it. I do think I still stand fast with my whole official thing, just because I think her growth in Genshin is probably done. And
Yeah.
to me, it feels like a natural progression for her. Like, if she were to go and become a nameless, like, she could have so much more to do. And it could really help the character actually flesh out who she is and figure out who she wants to be. Because I think, like, the one thing we did learn during last summer's event was that even she is coming to understand, or has come to understand, that her whole dual persona is maybe not super healthy. So, and she
Right.
came to that realization, but she still is who she is. She's not changing that. So it's like, okay, I think
Self-discovery journey?
yeah, and I think that the Astral Express would be a great way for her to do that. So maybe that's how I'll bridge that gap. I'm really glad I did this today, because I this is a video idea that I didn't have until now.
Yay.
Yeah.
Happy
I
to
you know
help.
yeah, I appreciate it. So
Uh, so
you are saying you think they go back to the worlds though, yeah? Like, the Astral Express, I guess, goes back? They made
Yeah.
it seem really permanent, like you don't go back. Like,
Pay
Branya and
attention to the wording because I think they kind of mention it at one point that you can kind of go back.
I
interesting.
I think it's mentioned that in order to stabilize the what's it called, Stellaris inside of the main character,
Stellaron.
uh, Stellaron. Thank you.
Yeah.
You gotta like kind of keep moving. You can't stay anywhere like for too long, but that doesn't mean you can't go back and visit places you've already been to. You just can't like permanently settle somewhere.
I know that there was like a 7 days thing or something. Like they stay like the average
7
time they stay.
days.
Yeah, they stay in a place approximately 7 days, and then they move on to the next. And that is it not like the Stellaron energy or something that actually stops the Star Rail, like
Yes, it
or
disrupts
stops
the
the
Star
Astral
Rail, yeah.
Express? Yeah. So like that's what actually dictates where they go on some degree, or it's where they go next. So
So
is
where they go next is not necessarily dictated by, because like they went to the Shanzhou Lofu. That wasn't where they were planning to go, right? They got the
right?
distress
Yeah,
ball,
that was going to be something else.
yeah,
Yeah,
but they got
and
stuck
so
because of the Stellaron that's present,
right,
right? So then they have to fix this, or they can't leave. Like basically, is the whole idea.
right. Interesting. Like I find myself more intrigued, but also lost compared to where I was before on this. Interesting. So yeah, it's interesting. So based on I guess the Stellaron energy issue, um, where they can go is more limited as opposed to like they can go to where they've been, but where they go next has less freedom, I suppose, then. Like because I think that the train is supposed to take them where they're needed most next, right? So I guess they decided that that was Shenzhou, right? Based on Kafka's whole uh ploy to
Well,
get them there.
based on Kafka, they were everything. She has that, what is it called? Like deterministic mindset where the Aeon she follows basically said that everything's gonna happen a certain way already, and this is how it's gonna happen,
Yeah.
and she knows. And so, I knew this was gonna happen. I knew this was gonna happen, and so I don't know what
Because
you
they're a
want to
very
call that.
matter of fact way of
Yeah,
of handling things, which actually and so that actually brings me to something really interesting, which is why, and maybe we can just go ahead and get into the next topic then. Uh
Aeons,
about no, about
Stellaron hunters.
Stellaron Hunters.
Okay, so about Stellaron hunters, what do you want to talk about?
Well,
What
first,
is your first impressions of their group?
I so to me, my first impressions of their group is that they might be to Honkai Star Rail what the Fatui are to Genshin Impact, where they have kind of this goal that is maybe bad, but maybe isn't that bad. They're really hard to read. You don't really know what their end game is, and it's the thing that I find the most interesting about the story, but it's also the thing that I think is causing the most problem for me in the story is general vagueness with the final plot. Because I still don't know right now. Like Genshin Impact, kind of the main plot became apparent as soon as you finished the Mondstadt quest line. Signora showed up and stole the gnosis, and you get this idea that like, okay, the Fatui are stealing the god's gnosis. Is this going to happen in the next region? And you find out pretty quick that yeah, you met another harbinger, and he was kind of being friendly, and sure enough, he tries to do it too. Um, and then Signora was working her angle to get it from Zhongli directly. Um, so like we had that concept. We know what the end game is. We know that there is a god, and that there is the god of a nation who basically commands the Fatui, and maybe another person who might even be pulling her strings. We're not sure, but they're trying to collect the gnosis for an unknown goal. So we know kind of what the main plot is, what the main driving force is for the next another 4 years, probably to the end of the story, or 3 years for the main Archon quest line. But like so far, and maybe it's premature, because we've only had 2 versions so far. I don't know where the story is going. I have no concept of what their overall goal is. They're not giving us that yet. Um,
Yeah.
so it's left things a little vague. And I don't know if that's, from a storytelling standpoint, the greatest decision to make, right? Like they need to establish it. Like I'm hoping beyond hope that 1.2 gives us the hook, right? Like we will now know, hopefully, with the conclusion of 1.2 and maybe the end of the main storyline at Xianjiao, what the goal of perhaps the Stellaron Hunters is, if they're going to be the main antagonist like the Fatui is in Genshin. Um,
So you haven't, I think maybe you haven't seen the other video that they released with the girl with the fortune teller girl.
Fortune teller girl.
So
Maybe
it's
not.
so you know like the Dane's Left video, the Teyvat the journey
Travail.
video.
Yeah,
Yes,
Travail.
they have a video like that for Honkai
Okay.
that came out like I don't know, like 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like
Do you know
that.
what it's called?
There you go.
What is it?
Uh,
Oh, I said not long ago.
oh yeah, not that long ago. Let me see. It is called. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? Myriad Celestia trailer. Fables about the Stars Part 1. It's a 4-minute video, and the person who is
Okay, I see it.
talking is supposedly the leader. Like that's like so there's speculation that she might be the leader or someone close to the leader of the
Okay.
Stellaron Hunters. So this is
So
probably the context you want,
uh,
actually.
isn't the leader of the Stellaron Hunters what, Elio or somebody like that?
Yeah, we don't really know. Oh, well, that's right. It's supposed to be like a male presenting person,
Yeah.
supposedly, but um, I don't know. Do you remember, Gina, like who this was supposed to be? There was some speculation about this.
I haven't dived that deeply into speculation videos for that yet, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. This is there is some things here, but they go through similar to how that the Travail video goes across like the different nations. This one goes across
Right.
the different playable paths.
Right.
And so there's the words that are being said are like foreshadowed.
Okay.
So definitely check this one out
So
after
yeah, I'll check the
because
video out
yeah,
after we finish up here. But this actually still leads me to the same problem, even if
yeah,
this
we still don't know.
unveils it. Is like they're not putting the hook in the game because, like, for
Hmm.
instance, I didn't know about this trailer, so there's going to be a lot of other people who don't know. Like,
It's true.
you cannot place the hook outside
But
of the game.
but but haven't they been doing that with Genshin?
No, because
They
Genshin had Signora show up and straight like, rip a gnosis out of
oh,
Venti's out of
true.
his chest at the end of Mondstadt. Like we knew what the goal was pretty early,
Oh,
and like
kind of. We think we know what the goal is.
well, we know we have a 7-nation heist going on. We
Oh,
know
true,
there's
true, true.
that. And
That's
Six
true.
so like,
nations.
say what?
6 nations.
Oh,
They don't
well,
got to
6,
steal
yeah.
their own.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
They can
Or
steal their own.
unless they are, because we did not see the Sarisa. We only
Dun, dun,
saw
dun.
Piero. We don't really know what her deal is. So like there, she cut off all ties.
Well, this
So
is the
there
weird thing,
there could
right?
be
Like
complications there. We don't
this
really know.
video, just like with that video of Dane's Left saying, "Step aside and see if you're more worthy than me to save her." And then there's the Fatui, the midnight, piazza or whatever it's called with Signor's death, showing the harbingers for the
Yeah,
first time. And then we have this new one that shows oh, that one was like preluding Sumeru a bit. Now this new one that's preluding Fontaine.
Fontaine. Yeah,
Um, what I'm talking about the harbinger video. It's not
yeah,
specifically the other one, right?
yeah.
And so that stuff is not in the game. Period. Like,
It's not,
you know,
but it's fine because like some of these things are, like they're hype, right? Like they're
right, right.
hyping on the real story. But
Extra stuff.
they're extra stuff, right? Like
Important,
if
but extra stuff.
exactly, but you can standalone Genshin without them, and you won't be missing some kind of key
True.
plot point. Whereas if this trailer actually provides a key plot point, maybe they need to
Yeah.
put it in the
I don't
game.
I don't think it provides a key plot point. I just think it foreshadows more in a more direct way as to like what the Celeron hunters might be up to. But
Right.
we know that oh wait, like from what Kafka says when she like wakes you up and like they
Mhm.
so like you said, the intrigue, the mysteriousness of the beginning of the game, where they wake you up and then they leave. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, what is that? Like, I'll
Yeah.
see you later. They, like, here, I'm gonna wake you up, bye, and then they leave, and then they're like, I don't know, like guiding your journey in some way,
Yeah,
like
they're nudging you
inadvertently.
towards something, but you don't
Yeah,
have any idea what it is that they're nudging you toward.
yeah. But I think
And they're
they
not even
chose that
hinting at it
though.
yet, right?
Yeah, I think they
They're
they
not
chose that in
even.
this case, right?
Yeah, in Genshin they couldn't help but hint at what was happening. Like I said,
Right.
Signora shows up, steals Venti's Gnosis. You have a good idea what they're doing, and then right after that, you see that your sibling is not dead. They are alive, and they're the commander of the Abyssal Order. Like you get these
Right.
little indicators of the further journey, like these little foreshadowed moments, these little things that will tell you, okay, I know a little bit more about what this journey is progressing towards. You know what the goal is. Right now, I don't know
Hmm.
what the goal is, and I really want them to establish
I
what the
see.
goal is. And I want them to do it in the
Interesting.
game in an approachable way that everybody will understand. And you don't have to go digging for that aspect because as somebody who has made content for Genshin Impact for the last 3 years, something that I've seen a lot of feedback on in regard to Genshin Impact is people who are complaining that they have to go to people like me or to Ashikai or Island XD to
Oh, yep.
find out what the hell is going on because something wasn't obvious to them and they needed us to dig that out for them.
Right.
And so
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
great, it gives us stuff to do, but it does make it makes it
Yeah.
unapproachable.
Well,
It makes it
that's the thing,
unapproachable.
right? That's what I like about. That's kind of one thing I like about Hoyoverse with Genshin so far, which is like that there's more in the game if you look for it, but you can
Absolutely, I
still
love that.
enjoy and follow what is happening to your character and in the game by playing it. So there's like two
Absolutely.
levels of understanding the story, right? And if you want to get to the deeper level, you have to do either a ton of work or you gotta follow a content creator who does a lot of
Yeah.
the work for you, right?
Well,
Um,
and that's what I think Genshin has shined in, right? Like I was saying,
mhm,
like people are complaining about it, but honestly, I think Genshin really does a pretty good job at making the
yeah,
story accessible enough to where it stands alone, where you don't necessarily need to go outside to look at trailers or go to content creators to find out what's happening. Whereas with Star Rail, that hasn't happened yet. I kind of think you do need that.
yeah, yeah.
If you really want to understand what's happening.
Yeah, I do agree that like that content outside the game has gotten me more interested for the story than a lot of the stuff in the game. Like that is kind of a weird thing because like
Yeah.
that anime cutscene that's for Jing
Oh, that
Yuan's
was super
story, like
cool. Yeah,
that
that's
has
really
got me
cool.
more hyped about the story of this game than the game so far itself has. Because like you're right, there's not much of a goal going on. Like your character is just traveling. Like that's their thing.
Yeah.
Like let's just travel the stars and figure out stuff as we go along. But like when does
It's
it
a
end,
cool
right?
concept, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, we need to know what the 7-year arc is,
I mean, it's
you
Star
know?
Trek. How does it end, right? Like
Right?
it doesn't end. Like
It
it just
doesn't
doesn't
end. It's
end.
episodic. They can do what they
Yeah, it's
want.
episodic, and
Yeah.
so like that concept I think applies here a lot.
Yeah. I mean, not to deviate too far, right? Like this part of the conversation was supposed to be about the Stellaron hunters, right? So
And it is. We know nothing about them.
yeah, we don't know anything about them. Like the only
This is
thing
as much as we
that
can have.
it does lead me to who I think is the most interesting character that's been introduced so far, though, as far as a character who we don't know a lot about yet, which is Kafka. Um,
Yeah.
she like they said in the 1.2 special program that she has no fear, and it's not like
Yeah.
like it's not like just like a person who's fearless. No, it's like she
She
literally lacks
literally.
that ability. She
Yes.
does not have it and she desires it. To me, that shows that this character actually does have um she probably actually does have like some sense of what's right and wrong, but she lacks the ability to empathize right now and wants that ability so that she can relate to people perhaps better.
Mhm.
Because that's the reason why she's working for the hunters in the first place, right? Like Elio promised to endow her with the ability to feel fear if he does what she or if she does what he says. So cool. She's doing this so that she can gain the ability to have fear. And obviously like everybody knows what fear does for you in life. It gives you, it gives you an instinct at what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and it lets you
Right.
know that other people would also feel this way about this or that. But if she lacks that ability, then she's going to be more prone to doing things that are probably not the right path because she lacks that ability to be empathetic to others. So like it puts her in this like weird position where like we haven't seen her do anything horrifically awful yet or anything, but we don't know
Mm-hmm.
what she's currently capable of. But it seems that she wants to grow beyond that. So it to me like this is like the essence of her forthcoming arc. Like I
Uh-huh.
didn't expect this from her, and they dropped this as this is one of those things where they dropped it to us outside of the game.
Right. Well, I
So
mean,
like, but
supposedly they drop it to us in the game, but like to hype us up, they told us before we knew in the game, right? Like they told us outside the
I
game.
guess, yeah, I
So I
guess
mean, I
like
guess
if they
too,
if
right?
they drop
Like
it to us during 1.2, then like I have no
yeah.
problem with that.
But if they don't, that's gonna be like what the like what the
Yeah, I
heck?
mean, like we know, yeah, because the voice
Yeah.
actor who plays the character told us. But
Yeah.
like we were supposed to learn that in the game. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather learn these things from the game than
Also, who's
from
Albert? Or Owl, whatever his name is, the owl dude, the
like
host,
the
the
least
mascot.
the least likable character that
He
they've made.
he's not
Aw.
even in the game. I
He's
mean,
not in the
I think he's
game. I
funny.
don't.
I think he's funny.
I
I don't think he's least likable. I mean,
I
for me, Dory's still least likable, but like like
Ooh.
I I don't. I think like dislike is a strong word for me with Albert. But what I find is
oh, the word you're looking
the
for is despise. Yeah, just I'm just
no,
kidding.
it's just
Just kidding.
I find the delivery of the character a
Mm-hmm.
little cheesy, and I understand like the whole special presentation thing, right? Is like it's a kind of a fourth wall break in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But
Exactly.
I'm having a hard time um like reconciling like the fourth wall break from the actual like game world of like him interviewing the characters in person
Yeah, it's
but
a weird. It's
having the
weird.
personality that he has.
Yeah, they're also
And
like
so
half role playing, half being voice actors at the same time.
it's weird. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I love the way Genshin has always done the special programs. It's just the voice actors. They're not pretending to be the characters. They're just the voice actors being themselves.
but
And
I don't know if you know this, but the Japanese live streams, it's always the Japanese characters role playing as their characters. They do not
yeah,
present
I did
themselves
know
as the
that.
voice actors. Yeah.
Yeah, I did know that. It's one of those things that I guess I just prefer the way they've done it in Genshin, but like
Mm.
I don't right now I'm just not digging on Albert, not the way he's presenting right now. It just I don't know, like the character just comes across a little bit like the kind of he comes across to me honestly as like the kind of voiced character that makes people not like
Mm-hmm.
dubs. And I like dubs. I'm one of those people who like dubs. So I'm like, come on.
Uh,
Like,
yeah.
why? Like, this feels like he feels like a 90s dub. And it's like,
Yeah, I mean he's
ah.
definitely like taking a lot of liberty with the way he's presenting it. But
Yeah, and I don't know if that's
yeah.
like I don't know if it's the voice actor or if it's direction. I really don't know. Like I feel like if it's direction, then the voice actor is probably doing like a good job.
It's probably usually what it
Like
is.
it's
Yeah.
probably what it's supposed he's probably doing exactly the way he's supposed to be, and like great, cool. But like I just don't know if I like that as a choice. So like I'm trying to
Right.
figure out how to work with that. It's a nitpicky thing, man. It is. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
matter.
it's
The
definitely a
character's not
preference
even in the
thing.
game. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah,
um,
but but you have to
yeah.
sit there and watch the content. It's
Yeah,
important.
you got to watch 40 minutes of, this like weird Conan O'Brien styled owl character like interviewing the voice
Conan
actors.
Owl Brian.
Uh,
All right. Anyway, we just want to move on to the next topic. Last topic. The last 15 minutes before we start making more owl puns. Um,
oh,
so
ouch.
the last topic that we want to kind of touch on, we did talk about 1.2. Now we talked about Kafka, the foreshadowing. We're gonna see what the end of even immortality ends means. Obviously, once like all of us have caught up to the story, because I think all of us, the three of us, like haven't finished like some of the newer companion stuff. That's why we're kind of keeping conversation to 1.0. But
Right.
one thing I do want to talk about is Aeons and the big
Yeah.
presence they have in this game and the concept. So Gina, take it away.
All right. I assume everybody here, uh, present with us right now, plays Honkai and therefore knows something about Aeons. But in case you need a refresher, uh, everybody follows a path that's kind of like a philosophy or maybe a religion, if you want to think about it spiritually. Uh, and if you dedicate yourself 100% to it, then you can ascend and become an Aeon, which is kind of like a god. Uh, minus spirituality components. But right now, we know of 18 of them. 7 of them have playable paths. Uh, so there's erudition. That's the aeon of logic and thinking. That's nous, or knows. I don't really know how to pronounce it. And then there's
Nobody knows.
boo.
Hey,
Nobody
I'm just
knows.
hey, it's Albert.
Actually,
All right,
not the
sorry.
worst impersonation.
Then, then we have the aeon of destruction, Nanook. Uh, they're believed we're according to Kafka, we're gonna fight them one day, and we can talk about that. There's the Aeon of Abundance, Yaoshi, the one responsible for making certain people immortal. Uh, there's the one of Harmony, Shipe, Sheep, Xipe. Then there's the Aeon of Hunt, Lon. We all know about him. He has a very interesting story about how he ascended. Then there's the Aeon of Nihilism, 9, spelled Roman numeral 9. Then there's the Ion of Preservation, uh, Klipoth.
Klipoth.
Yes. Uh, would you guys rather talk about the ones who are playable or the ones who have some interesting lore but perhaps don't have any playable characters?
Well,
Just talk
probably
about
most interesting if we talk about the
yeah.
ones that people are going to see, I think. Like the ones that are going to be more relevant, probably.
Okie doke. Then let's talk a little bit about the ones responsible for our favorite characters. Like for me, it would be erudition. It would be Nous. Uh, and it's said that he doesn't really care about mortals too much because as soon as like a genius mortal comes up, they've come up with a solution for a problem that he came up with like centuries ago. Truly does not care, but he might acknowledge you in a little way. And some people think like, oh, he acknowledged me. That means I'm a genius. And no, he means, okay, I'm gonna gift to you, give you a gift of being able to learn more, so that maybe you can hopefully one day catch up to me. He seems kind of rude, but uh, you know, in a Big Bang Theory way, not in a truly harmful way.
Interesting description. I weirdly understand what you're talking about, despite the fact that I have not actually watched that show. I get it.
You get it.
I
It's
get it.
it's part of the cultural understanding, you know.
It
So
is.
can people have multiple paths, Gina?
So as so long as you remain mortal, you can switch paths. If for a long time you thought, oh, the right way to live is uh the path of abundance, and then something happens to you in your life and you decide, actually no, this is wrong, and actually I want to dedicate myself to the path of nihilism. I think that actually did happen with Don Shu. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I think she was following the path of the hunt at
Mm-hmm.
first, but after everything that happened to her and gave her
Mm-hmm.
her sad tragic backstory,
So sad.
she
Yeah.
switched over to a different path.
I
uh,
was it Hunt? No, was it
she
Destruction?
started in Hunt, and then I can't remember if she switched to
Destruction or
Abundance or
Abundance? Yeah.
Nihilism.
Oh, Nihility. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Um.
But yeah, Aeons
mm,
can't switch paths because if they were to the reason they ascended to godhood and became Aeons is because they were dedicated solely to this one path. And should they ever stray from it, that's one of the 3 ways that an Aeon can die.
and Aeons can be like new paths can appear, right? And some older paths can be absorbed sort of into the new philosophies or something like that. Isn't that
So
right?
it's not about whether or not it's newer or older. Uh, if, you, for example, I had a path of medicine and I had a path of healing. Healing is more general than medicine. So medicine would be absorbed into healing. Whichever one is broader is the one that takes over.
And why can the main character switch? Oh wait, so the main character switch paths. So anybody can switch paths as long as they're mortal, right? So this implies that we can get the same character in a different path in the future.
We could. That is a possibility. I don't know if
Yes,
that would
like
mean,
Den Hung.
yes, like that.
Yes.
But then we should also talk about drawing the gates of an Aeon and becoming an Emanator, which almost happened to us in our to the main character in the first battle when Nanook, the Aeon of Destruction, kind of like got their eye on you and you started glowing until our bestie Welt kind of just karate chopped us and knocked us out and stopped us from ascending.
Yeah, so what about UTH? Like so when it comes to like trying to wrap your head around like the aeons and the paths and all this stuff, like how does it stick out to you? How does it compare? Like how do you feel about like this concept in this game?
Well, I mean, obviously, it kind of like with a lot of a lot of the stuff in this game, like the concepts are very similar to what we're seeing in Genshin, right? You have more gods, although you could argue that there's not really,
Hmm.
because Genshin had a lot of other gods. They're just all either dead or they've been banished to the other side of the Dark Sea. But
Different with that.
um, yeah. Uh, so like we have this similar concept though, right? Like we have a god who represents a given path, and the paths can be looked at the same as the principles in Genshin Impact,
Hmm.
right? Like A's path was eternity, and so it wasn't really until she saw her sister's path, which was transience, that she actually started to kind of figure out the right way along her own path, which is it's just interesting as a just like a side thought. But like it shows that like that's how they can die, for crying out loud. Like like how you were saying, like if they lose sight of their own path, then the Aeons can actually die from that. And to me, that's an interesting thought for perhaps the gods of Genshin Impact. Even is like if they truly lose sight of their path, does that mean that they're destined to be replaced? Like
Good point.
if somebody has a firmer grasp of their principle, like are they destined to replace them? We know that Venti told us that any vision holder can become, can ascend to godhood. We've yet to see it on screen, but we know it can happen. Um, which why haven't we seen that? Like I'd like to come back to that at some point. But yeah, no, the whole paths of the Aeons and like how they impact each of the characters is probably I think it's at the core of what makes all of the characters who they are. And it'll be really interesting to see, kind of circling back to character growth and development, how they'll play forward with this. Because like you said, Don Hung, for instance,
Hmm.
like if they begin to resonate with a different path, how will that not only change, like obviously like their character mechanics, because obviously they're going to have to make another version of that same character as a playable thing, but how will
Hmm.
that also steer the character's story from there? um,
Hmm.
so there's a lot that can be said there. And with what is it, 16, 17 aeons, like there's
18.
18.
Uh,
There's, I'm sorry, go
you
ahead.
Yeah, using that as a jumping off point, I want to address something in chat. I saw somebody say that they don't know if in-game paths are canon because some of them don't make sense for the character. I just want to take a quick moment to clarify. The path can be nihilist, nihility,
Nihility.
nihility, uh, and that can mean different things to different people. It can mean like, oh, the world is meaningless, so I shouldn't even try to find meaning, or it can mean, oh, the world is meaning, so I must strive even harder to find meaning. But like both in both those cases, the person is like, oh, the world is without meaning, so they're both on the same path, just like
Mm-hmm.
different branches of it. So I don't, you know, it depends on your interpretation of the path whether or not it makes sense for the character, but just because one character is following the path of abundance doesn't mean that they have the same uh, beliefs as another character on the same path.
I would also like to point out that we haven't spent enough time with any of these characters to say, if they're on the path that best suits their personality. Furthermore, if they are on a path that doesn't suit their personality, how do we know that they are not destined to fall to a different path and become something else? That could be where they're going with the story. That might be intentional. We don't know yet. We've had
Yeah,
two versions.
I'm curious how many new characters are going to be different versions of the same characters. Like I know in Honkai Impact Third, there's only like a handful of characters, but there's so many different versions of the same character with different
Yeah.
moves and everything.
Different
But
elements.
but in Genshin, we haven't had
They,
that yet, right?
so long as they don't go the Fate route and end up with 18 different saber faces, I'll be happy to get more than one version of Bronya or Seal.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too. Honestly, it's one of those things I was really hoping they would do with Genshin. I really was.
Yeah,
Like when
I
when
want
the
a
game,
5-star Bennett.
yeah, not Bennett. Unless I don't need a 5-star Bennett. I just need a god sensors. I need a I need a toggle for a C6. That's what I
Oh
need.
yeah.
But yeah, no, like when the game started, I had this vision of like the characters like Kaya and Lisa and Amber having these great growth arcs, maybe by Sumeru, that
Right.
would result in them having 5-star ascensions, new designs, and it, perhaps a new skill set. That hasn't happened.
3
We
years
s-
later, what do we get? Kaya playing pirate.
yeah, Kaya being a pirate and maybe a new costume, like it's fine. It's but like I am definitely pining for growth there. So,
Mhm.
I'm hoping that what they're going to do with Star Rail is, what they haven't done with Genshin, and I'm still hoping they will do at some point, is yeah, give us those transformations. Give us the other path. God, it would be so interesting in Genshin if we also saw an individual who not just manages to activate the vision of another like Kazuha did, but actually obtains another one. Like,
Yeah, I mean
you know,
that could literally happen at any time. We have no idea.
yeah, like we've never heard if it can happen. We
Yeah.
don't know. But like what if like, one of the characters, what if Ito wakes up one morning and he's got a pyro vision, like what would that even look like? What would happen, Like he goes to
Oh
pick
man,
up
that'd be
his club and it
crazy.
just bursts into flames, like that
Oh
could
my
be
god,
that could be
he goes to
amazing.
send out Ushi and it's literally just steak.
Yeah. I was thinking that too. I was like, is it gonna be steak
Oh
and zuni?
god.
Yeah, it's steak.
Oh my god.
Oh
That would
god.
be like what
Terrible.
would it look like? Like, if the characters could be a different element. And that is something that they could explore within Star Rail. And I
I
hope
mean
that they will do in Genshin.
as early as Genshin's what were we talking about, 1.1 or something?
Mm-hmm.
Child having a delusion.
A
Having you
delusion,
fight
yeah.
him having two elements. And I'm like, when this character comes out, he's gonna be the first character to have two elements. Did not
Did
Can't
not
happen.
wait.
happen.
Not even
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah,
Like,
and they haven't released a skin for him with the delusion. They haven't
yeah.
released a delusion child for us to play as.
Yeah, which they
Please
could.
do that.
They could,
Yeah,
you
they
know?
could do it. I don't know why they don't, but they
Well,
could.
that's maybe they're I don't know why they don't release skins every patch to just let us throw money at them. I don't know. They
Yeah,
don't do that either.
I guess they don't like money.
I guess so,
Yeah, because they would get a lot more of it if they did do that.
Oh,
For
100%.
sure.
Yeah.
For
Do you guys want a
sure.
cursed thought about Child?
What?
Go.
You know the Evangelion crossover they had with HI3?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
With Asuka.
I have her.
Yeah.
I do
If you
not,
put the
but
Asuka model
wish.
and the Child models like side to side, they have the same face.
Oh my god, I have an Asuka figure up on top of my cabinet in front of me,
You
and
have
I'm
a
looking
female
at it.
Child
And
figure.
Whoa! You have
why
a female child figure?
why
FBI, open up.
why did you do this?
Oh man, but yeah, that's so like yeah, I love thinking about
Ugh.
this potential because it's weird because it's not so far fetched of ideas that they couldn't do it, but there's just no hint as to if they will do it, when they will do it, and why they don't do it. So I'm really curious to see, like, like we were talking about earlier, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, like what's going on? I'm so curious what the quote unquote end game of Genshin is going to be. It's going to be huge. The world map's going to be insane. There's going to be like so many characters and so many ways to play the game. I bet by that time that like I don't see myself quitting Genshin anytime soon.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, like Star Rail is already on the back burner for me because like
For
you just
sure.
go in, you finish it, and then you just go back to Genshin because there's so much more stuff to like walk around and do. But um, but yeah, so yeah, but anyway, like that's kind of the big ideas there. And we definitely have a lot to talk about going forward from Honkai Star Rail. We're gonna see so much more. We literally have no idea. Like you were saying, Like we don't know where the story is going. Like
We
we
haven't
really
even
don't.
scratched the surface,
Yeah,
even a little.
we haven't even like touched the surface, let alone scratch it. And like there's this game is so early that it's so
It
interesting
really
to
is.
compare it to Genshin and be like, look at where Genshin is now.
Mm.
Look at like I mentioned earlier, we have TCG, we have this, we have that. It's so there's so much to do. The game has expanded so much, and we're still not even if maybe at the halfway point.
And
And
that's just for the Archon quest line because
exactly,
they you it's they have something planned beyond the Archon quest line. Once it's resolved, they're gonna break into something totally different. And it's gonna be like it's gonna be like like the equivalent of moving beyond Endgame in the MCU. Like they're gonna have a whole other thing, a whole other
right?
big baddie, the whole everybody on the other side of the Dark Sea. What's
Yep,
going on over there? They have all of that to explore.
yeah,
Light and dark as elements, for instance. I've been theorizing that for a long time because there's lots of precedent for that to already have existed in the past, and it's just not being represented anymore. Like they have a lot that they can do, and like when Genshin first came out, it had a lot of the complaints that Star Rail has, which is there's just not enough to do, and now I
mm-hmm.
can't keep up anymore. I can't
Yep.
keep up with Genshin anymore. It's much harder to keep up, especially
You know
just
how many
having a busy
hangouts
life
I
as I
haven't
do.
done?
I've only done half of them. I still have a ton of them to do.
I haven't
Yeah.
touched Parusans at all.
Oh my god, so
Ooh,
good.
that's actually one I really want to do.
Yeah, that one I really really liked.
Yeah, I got to finish cookies and then I'm gonna get into Farazans. I think after that.
Last random thought that I wanted to say before I start closing, is like remember how you're talking about like if someone leaves the Genshin world, then they like come to, Honkai and we have to say goodbye to them or something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you were like saying like okay, well let's say like Fischl decides to come to like she finds a way, she comes to Honkai Star Rail canonically as herself, leaving Teyvat to come to Honkai Star Rail. Um, my first thought was, so so Honkai Star Rail is where Senora is going. Imagine she doesn't show up in Genshin anymore, just shows up
Just shows
somehow.
up there.
Like we find out that Raiden A's like or Raiden Shogun's what's it called, the Musuno Hitatachi, when it obliterates people just sends them to a different universe actually. Oh
just
my
just
gosh.
wakes up on the Astral Express really
Yeah.
confused.
Oh my god, that'd be crazy.
Oh
Um
man.
yeah.
I wouldn't honestly, I wouldn't mind that because
No, I wouldn't either. Are you kidding me?
I kind of lament Signora as a killed off too early character. I
100%.
think I think that like it was definitely one of the stronger moments of the
Mm-hmm.
game so far when they would like that scene was glorious. I love that scene for
Yeah.
how they did it, and the implications that fall after it. But I think the character was sadly wasted if she doesn't come back.
Agreed. It's just
Because
too much. It's too much. Like
there's
they
still
put
more
too
to
much
do.
work into her for her to be gone. Like
Yeah,
to
agreed.
like permanently gone. Like so weird.
Yeah,
What is this, Game of
there's more
Thrones?
to do. Yeah, I have a big problem with franchises in general that kill characters off needlessly with little impact. So I don't
Yeah.
think that necessarily that's what they did with Senior because it did have impact, and I think
Mm-hmm.
we've just yet to see the
Genshin
full
Impact.
scale of it
Yeah.
yet. But I think we've just yet to see what the true totality of that is yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe that, you know, that Inazuma is not going to see consequence of their god executing a harbinger. I think that we're probably mistaken. Um, so like there's going to be consequence for Inazuma. Like, I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I feel like that we're going to come back there for something important before long. And I'm really hoping that that's going to be the thing that's going to bring Wanderer back that way. We'll see.
Well, let's save that one for a Genshin
Another
podcast.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard not to. I've been trying, honestly, like as many times as I brought it back to Genshin today. Like I've been like, every time I do it in my mind, I'm like, no, stay on Star Rail, man.
Yeah,
Stay.
it's hard because
It's
like
hard.
we were saying, there's not that much content in Star Rail yet. So what do we have to
There's
compare it
not.
to? Genshin. Are they
Yeah,
technically related? Yes, kind of, sort of. And so
leaves on the
it's
same
not like
tree.
right. It's not like we're like totally jumping out of the water to a totally different game. Like I'm not
No.
like, hey, remember in Pokemon when it's like Genshin Impact? No, it's totally different. Like
Yeah.
Right.
they're similar. So
No, it's not exactly a reach. It's
yeah.
not. Yeah.
Um yeah, so before we start, so as you start closing, Gina, any last words on Honkai Star Rail that you want to share with everybody? Gina?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can. Yes. Testing.
Okay.
Yes. Houston, we have a problem.
This
Okay,
happens often.
now we can't hear you. Okay.
I'm still
Hello.
hearing
You
the
can or you
crickets.
can't.
You can now.
Okay. I have a lot of questions regarding Idrilla, and she's who I'm most looking forward to finding out more about. The
Who?
Aeon of Beauty.
Oh, Aeon of Beauty.
hmm
Ooh, cool.
I
I
leave
love.
you with those closing thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, I love that simulated universe, the more you get into it, the more you learn about these like other random aeons too, which is pretty cool. Um so like elation and, remembrance and all this stuff. So definitely TH when you get the chance to do more simulated universe, and cuz you can actually pick like, do you want to just do the combat, or do you want to like choose the section that you get a buff and there you read some text and you read about the archons and stuff like that. Like there's all this Aeon lore in Simulated Universe, and it's
Yeah,
really cool.
I've definitely, with what little of it I've done, I
hmm
stop and I read all the Archon lore because I'm like,
Yeah,
this
no,
seems
it's great.
important.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's super interesting.
And so TH, any last words that you want to leave the audience with when it comes to Honkai Star Rail? Your final thoughts on the game so far and your experience with it?
I really, 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 like I said earlier, I really hope 1.2 gives us the hook.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't to say that I don't think the story's enjoyable. I do,
Mm-hmm.
every day that I play more of it, the more I'm like, okay, this is fun. Like I get this. This makes sense to me. But I really want them to establish the hook, and I really can't wait to learn more about Kafka, because I think that her character is like they like she comes across to me as like the Signora-esque character in this game. So like I want to learn more about this character, and I hope that she's not destined to a premature death, because that
Mm-hmm.
would be a bit of a problem for me.
It
Because
would be tragic.
yeah, I mean, you're gonna piss off a whole new a whole new bunch of like a whole Discord full of people who are really into
Discord,
Kafka for sure.
a whole Reddit,
Yeah, a whole
whole
Reddit,
Reddit
a whole
subreddit.
Discord, like
Yeah.
just like a whole branch of the internet just going to like implode. Um, it would be a problem. So yeah, like that's my general thought for Star Rail right now. Like bring the hook, guys. Bring the hook for 1.2, because I think the story needs it.
Yeah, that's great. Like we'll see what happens in 1.2. Obviously, there's so much stuff to be excited for. I just want to throw out there that that big boss that they showed in 1.2 is using like two paths at the same time, just switching between them. This kind of seems kind of OP to me, honestly. But
Talking about the
we'll
big lady at the end.
yeah, the big lady who has
I
like
don't know
she
who it
like
is, but she looks
does
cool.
destruction and abundance at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's crazy. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, like we were saying, this game is so early. A lot of us are really excited to see where it goes. I'm sure people will jump in and out of the game as like updates come and et cetera, et cetera. But it is it definitely could go anywhere. So thank you, TH, for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun talking about Honkai Star Rail. And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good time. Like this is my third time now with you all here, and like every time it helps to remind me why I started doing this in the first place, and
Hmm.
it's a good time. So I look forward to coming back.
Nice. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And so, yeah, thank you everyone for listening to our podcast today. We're going to go ahead and end out the podcast. I just want to mention again to find TH on YouTube. We'll put his links in the chat right now. And definitely go check out his videos. Hopefully, we'll see some of your Star Rail discussion videos sometime soon at TH.
Yeah, I do
Uh,
have some. I have some ideas and a new one as of this video. So yeah,
Perfect. So we're looking forward to that. And again, once again, thank you to the people who helped us to make the stage today. So and the Chibis who Reyes on Instagram, Alice, Squish, and Mozart on Discord. And yeah, we will see you all soon. What we're gonna do is we are going to do, I believe we're going to raid, and we are going to raid Rin Taicho. Um, so if we're gonna go ahead and get that ready, I believe. But thank you everybody. If you're gonna help us raid, stick around. We're gonna have the raid message in the chat as well. And but for us, that is the end of the podcast. So thank you everybody, and have a great day. Bye bye everyone.
have a good one, everyone.